We are back on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk, 1180, 1230 KGEO, 1410 KARI, 1000 KKIM in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and 3 times a week on the Internet across the nation. We are having fun with one of the gentlemen that's been on my bucket list, George Allen, former senator and governor from the great state of Virginia, whose dad is a famous name to many of us. He was a football coach for the Rams and the Redskins.
Also ran for president, didn't he?
His dad didn't, but George Allen did.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, I thought you did. Or was it just exploratory committees, or?
No, there's others who may have wanted me to, but I did not.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, there were some people that in fact, at one time they were. I did remember reading an article about they wanted you to run as VP with Connie Rice as the president or something. I remember reading something about that, but.
No, you can read about all sorts of stuff.
Oh yeah. It's just amazing the stuff I read about Clay. It's just it's surprising we're still on the air.
Nobody wants me to run for anything.
Run for cover.
Run for cover. Yeah. I didn't realize until yesterday when I was getting ready for this that you wrote a book that I thought is interesting, and I'm going to try to download it. And the book is entitled. Bear with me here a second, because I think it's a great segue here.
I know what the title is if you don't want to wait.
I got it. What Washington Can Learn from the World of Sports. That's a fascinating title. What can Washington learn from the world of sports?
Well, they can learn a lot from sports. People love sports. And it's everything from learning lessons, getting knocked down, getting back up, competitiveness. Probably the overarching issue that I think applies to our society generally as far as sports is concerned is that if you this was a lot of reflection of growing up for myself and composing this book, is that all the teams my father coached, the teams I played on, you had players from all over the country, some of them from outside the country, different religions, races, ethnicities. None of that mattered. What mattered is could you help the team win? Could you block or tackle or kick or punt and help the team win? And you have a level playing field. And somebody wins and someone loses, but the point is that everyone has an equal opportunity to be on the team and an equal opportunity to succeed. And that's what we should aspire to in our society, not equal results. The way government is, you'd think that they'd like everyone finishing a race holding hands at the same time. No, someone wins, someone loses. You have to have measurement, and you do have measurement, and what gets measured gets better. That's what's, I think, important in educational standards and accountability, is not just look at, well, how much money are we spending? Is the question is, are school children learning how to read and write and speak the English language and learning history of our country and major civilizations and science and mathematics and economics? And you have to measure that. And you don't go to a basketball game and guess what the score is. There's a scoreboard, and that's an important issue. The other competitiveness of sports gets you thinking, all right, how can we make America the most competitive, desirable place for people to invest, take a risk, and thereby improve their lives, but also create job opportunities for young people. And so if you take that kind of attitude, you'll say, well, gosh, why in the heck would we want to be the worst in the world as far as taxing incorporated businesses? We have the highest tax in the world on businesses. And it's just harmful for manufacturing. It's harmful for all businesses. I reflect back on Ronald Reagan in his 6th year as president with a divided House and Senate, got through the last corporate tax reform, and now the tax code's even more complicated, and it ought to be made more simple with lower rates and make our country more competitive. And for the trillions of dollars that companies, international companies that are headquartered in the U.S. have, there's trillions overseas that they don't want to bring back into our country because they'll get taxed at these high rates. And so it seems to me that there are a lot of things we can do as far as tax policy, regulations, energy. We're blessed with the best energy, most energy resources of any country in the world, and that can make Team America much more competitive. So each of the chapters of my book bring up defense wins championships, energy policy, which is you don't punt on second down. We don't need to be punting on energy policy. Tax policies has to do with a chapter that no one goes to a game to watch officials officiate, and we don't need all these nanny regulations and convoluted tax policies and so forth. So there's a lot of good examples of different sporting events, but the main thing, I think, is that most people in our country just want to have that equal opportunity, and we want to make sure that future generations have the same opportunities we had growing up. And to do that, we need to turbocharge, in my view, our economy, and that does mean reforms to our tax policies, and regulations need to be made more reasonable and unleash our plentiful blessings of energy resources in our country. And if we do that, we'll have a strong economy and a strong national defense.
Exactly. You know, George, I'm reminded of an old friend of mine who I think you knew, Congressman Bill Dannemeyer. I love the way he put it. He said, you know, we're guaranteed equal opportunity, not equal results.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now,
that's the promise. The American dream is it's a land of opportunity. That's what you call America. It's not land of everyone getting the same results. And by everyone striving to get better, that improves society generally. And government shouldn't favor one business over another. We, the people, the consumers, decide who has the best product or best service, not the government favoring one over the other.
Exactly. We're having a conversation with former Senator and Governor George Allen. And George, something you said there, you know, you said people love sports. Are you insinuating they don't love politics?
No, they don't. You don't see 70,000 people coming to watch a debate. As much as debates, I think, are important, and I do think governance and public service and politics are obviously very, very important. But they don't have a section of the newspaper on politics. They have a sports section, and I think the reason people do like sports is you do not know what the result will be in any given game. You do get upsets every now and then, but there's a sense that there's fair play in it, and there's penalties, there's rules, but it's not overregulated, and there's exuberance to it, and it's unscripted. And it's live entertainment, so to speak, but they also like the idea of teamwork and people preparing together and executing plays and adapting and innovating and so forth. And they don't see enough of any adapting, innovating, and you hardly see any teamwork whatsoever. When you watch what happens in Washington, you know, they delay of game penalties or pass interference seems to be their main goal as far as getting anything done that's beneficial for our country. People wouldn't want to watch football games if all people ever did was just sit there in a huddle and never run a play and get endless penalties, and if they ever do anything, they punt. That wouldn't be a very exciting game.
You know, George, I see basically two things that I believe are helping to destroy this country. One is being politically correct, and the other is taking away profiling. Those are two items that need to change.
What do you mean by taking away profiling?
We need to be able to profile so that we can stop crime and criminals.
That's an interesting way of putting it, Clay. I don't know if I totally agree with how you put that. I think I know where you're going with that. But
I'm not really going anywhere with it. It's just my thought.
And what was your first one?
Political correctness.
Oh, political correctness. Well, political correctness in some situations can actually reduce our First Amendment rights of freedom of expression, which freedom of expression for all men and women is one of the pillars of a free and just society, including freedom of religion, private ownership of property, and the rule of law to protect our God-given rights, in my judgment. So as far as law enforcement is concerned, I think that is a primary role of government, primarily at the state and local level. And I'm opposed to racial profiling. I think that's wrong. You shouldn't profile people based on race. You ought to do it on their activities.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, the activities, the crimes.
Yeah. Well, you know, if somebody has committed previous crimes. One of the things we did, which made Virginia safer when I was governor, is I kept my promise to the people, and we abolished the lenient dishonest parole system in Virginia. So now in Virginia, when a rapist gets convicted of 12 years, he's serving 12 years. He's not getting out in 3 and raping someone else or assaulting someone or lurking in a parking garage, and it's made Virginia much safer. And you can ban all the guns you want, but if the criminals are still loose, you're not going to reduce crime. We did not ban guns, by the way. We passed a law to make it much more fair for people to get a concealed carry permit, and people who get those permits do not commit crimes. Criminals do.
Exactly. George, we're having too much fun with you, so can we hold you over for another segment?
Sure can. I'm enjoying it as well.
Good. We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio News Talk 1180.